Hello and welcome back to Podcasting as Praxis. I am David and I am very tired and I'm here with Rob.
Hello.
James.
Hi, how you doing?
Jamie.
Alright.
And Alistair.
Hello.
Been trying to start this podcast for about fucking 15 minutes now.
Jamie's been injured in the process. Much like these episodes, we've been taking a lot of heavy enemy fire.
I think we should do more of these back-to-back episodes. The second one always has an energy to it that I really enjoy.
Yeah, cursed energy.
It might be the energy leaking out of David, to be totally honest, but it's still an energy.
A miracle there's any fucking left. Right, okay, let's just fucking kick off, will we? It's another Cultural Committee episode, and we are here to fulfil a promise that we made.
What?
That we are
Obligation?
Yeah, I know, and fucking one of those things.
Our patriotic duty, David, that's what we're here to do.
Yes, indeed. Well, we are going to talk about...
Keir Starmer, is that you?
What?
Patriotism, never mind. Jesus Christ.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, I've not been paying attention to what the fucking ham-faced cunt's talking about.
In fairness, no one else has either, so you're
Exactly. I have met the zeitgeist.
I met two zeitgeists in a yellow wood.
So yeah, we're going to talk about a film series and a wider media series. And I'll give you a little hint.
Oh, very good.
That's right. We're going to be talking about Tom Clancy's shit films and games.
Welcome to the Clancyverse.
Oh dear. So can I kick us off with a story about how Tom Clancy got started?
Sure, why not? Is it by wearing a hat that said USS something or other on it? The USS Nonce or whatever. He always wear those Navy hats.
No, it's even better than that, because obviously he gets started in the 1980s, right? Writing his books, which were, at the time, no one else had done really something quite like this.
When you say it's even better than that, I'm assuming that you're referring to the Navy hat, and by even better, you mean he's wearing a sombrero or something?
No, it's how he actually developed his first book, right? Because obviously his first book was The Hunt for Red October, and he then followed up with Red Storm Rising. And The Hunt for Red October is basically about a USSR submarine defection, among other things, right? And Red Storm Rising is the inexplicable scenario where the US and the USSR go to war only using conventional weapons. But we'll gloss all that over, right? Because he, credit to him, he actually went and did the fucking research, right? Because the internet didn't exist. You couldn't go online and go, World of Tanks, what are the stats of the latest high-end tank in the US arsenal? You couldn't do that. So he had to fucking read trade magazines. He had to go to the library.
I'm sorry, but you just put in my mind some future archaeologist pulling hard drive out of the ground and then working out how strong the tanks were from the mid 20th century purely based on World of Tanks stats.
Yeah, but that's what he did essentially. He just essentially ate Jane's Intelligence handbook and just shat it out into a novel form.
Yeah, he seriously did the research, and you got to as a writer, I've got to respect that that's a lot of time and effort pre-internet days to put together the tech specs of all of this. Now, what makes it really funny, is how he plotted out the events of The Hunt for Red October and Red Storm Rising. Because he did it, and I shit you not, he did it with a bunch of mates by sitting around a table playing a war game called Harpoon on pen and paper. Right?
One of us.
It's absolute grognard roleplay gamer, basically, sits down and he's like, right, I want to write a story about this event, so we're going to play out this event on this war game called Harpoon. And Harpoon's pretty interesting, because Harpoon was developed by civilians. It's still used to this day by Navy instructors to train officer cadets, and its numerical models of American and at the time like Soviet vehicles, weapon systems, they were so detailed that this is true. This happened. The Department of Defense paid a very, very like serious visit to the developer. There's a guy called Larry something or other. Oh no, it was Larry Bond actually, because he did Red Storm Rising with Clancy actually. Demanding to see his classified materials, only to discover that he managed to put it together purely from public released kind of stuff. And so, to give you the proper image of Clancy going into this, he's a wargame nerd who, with his wargame nerd mate, who developed the go-to like tabletop game for naval battles, he took this grognard knowledge and digested it and concentrated it and turned it into an international best-selling series of books, which may have had state funding and benefit behind it towards its like real explosion. But this is where the man comes from. He is a fucking dice-rolling nerd playing with tabletop games and then writing up his campaign as a story. So,
yeah, while also being a right-wing lunatic, let's...
Yeah, but
well,
that's how they make Fast and Furious films, so... it's not that special.
Oh man, I still want to do an episode on the Fast and Furious universe.
we have
let's
to
get through this fucking cursed thing first.
Yeah, we can't do Fast and Furious until we're a family, so... We've got another year to go.
For fuck's sake.
So, with that introduction to Clancy out of the way, where do you want to start? Do we want to start with the films or do we want to start with the books? Rob, what do you think?
Let's start with the films.
Yeah, because we watched a couple of films like in prep for this, and obviously some of us have seen plenty and some of us have not seen that many. I think I'd seen The Hunt for Red October, which is like a good film.
That's a good film.
Then...
It is a very good film, despite Sean Connery's very dodgy accent in it.
I don't know what's dodgy about it. It's a perfect Scottish accent.
Fuck, it isn't.
It isn't, that's the thing. To us, Jamie, to us, Sean Connery's natural Scottish accent sounds like that dude... in Castle impersonating a Geordie. Like, that's how it sounds.
That was perfect, that, man. we all sound like that around here. Even to the point where when we talk, you can hear like panpipes playing and stuff. The mic just doesn't pick it up when I'm on here. That's the.
Would you rather have panpipes going when you speak, or would you rather have Enya?
Oh, yeah, right. Let's just fucking start on that film. Well, so we watched Patriot Games.
Yeah.
I kind of liked Patriot Games, I'm not going to lie.
It's an alright movie.
No, it's not.
Pacing is weird as shit.
No, the pacing is terrible.
The plot of Patriot Games, for anyone who's not seen it, is the president from Air Force One stops Boromir from killing Lawrence Fox's dad in London. And so the Queen makes him a lord or some shit.
Yeah.
That's about it. Yep.
It's a very boring movie with very weird pacing that then has an extraordinarily stupid ending.
Yeah, well,
ending
it's an action thriller from like before the mid to late 90s, so yeah, the pacing is just fucking dreadful. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like Aliens, like fucking Aliens just what?
Fuck up.
It's like an hour before you fucking see an alien. Do you know what I mean? And then then there's a bit of action, and then they just sit around for like another fucking hour till something else happens. It's like, Jesus Christ, dude.
I kind of like the pacing of films like this a little bit. Right? I don't like the pacing of Patriot Games. It's shit. But I liked like the pacing of stuff like Aliens and all this because I felt like it gave things room to breathe. It didn't have to drag you by the nose through everything, and I kind of liked
soundtrack helped with it.
Yeah, it did, didn't it?
Like, the reason that I played that at the start is because James Horner did the soundtrack for Aliens, and he also did the soundtrack for Patriot Games, and he just reused some of the Alien soundtrack.
Which is really, really funny.
Yeah, because that cut that I played at the start, that's from the Patriot Games soundtrack, it's not from Aliens.
Yeah.
I hate it so much.
The possible
it plays
theories...
so many fucking times through the film, and it took me out of it every single fucking time.
Aye. It's no longer the Alien soundtrack, it's the theme to Jack Ryan.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like I'm never going to trust someone with two first names for like both their names.
Jack Ryan is like the star character in the Clancy multiverse, and it's just like he has
a middle name, doesn't he, as well? Didn't they mention that at some point in the film?
He probably does. I don't know, but
that would qualify him for that bit in Justified, where like Raylan says you should never like trust anyone with 3 first names. triple winner right off the bat.
I have to say I've heard rumor that in addition to playing,
you're correct, Jamie. It's John Patrick Ryan.
There you go.
Oh God, of course it is. We actually discussed that before on the episode, and we talked about his Irish ancestry and all that shit. I'm now remembering. But anyway,
I'm surprised. Like they mention his middle name in the film, and they don't give him like fucking Enya whenever he's on screen.
I have heard a rumor, and this is only rumor. This is not substantiated. That in addition to playing like wargame tabletop, Tom Clancy also did kind of like traditional D&D style tabletop kind of stuff, and that Jack Ryan was his character. But I don't know if that's true. I can't actually find anything to confirm that.
I would fucking love to play a game of D&D where you've got like a ranger and a fucking wizard and a fighter and then like a CIA analyst. Do you know what I mean? Like, that'd be fucking
it would
class.
like can you imagine it? Because he'd be like that guy at the table who's really into the kit kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, you're all like, right, okay, time to go to the dungeon and like crack the Lich's skull. And the guy's like, well, actually, you've got to take out the phylactery. But not to worry, because I've got my 10-foot pole, and he just takes up 10 minutes going, do we all have trail rations and all this shit? While everyone's rolling their eyes and drinking beer and eating pretzels. Anyway.
He refuses to use the term levelling up. He says moving up an echelon.
What I'm hearing here is Tom Clancy was the intended market for Fatal.
We are not explaining that one to our audience. If you don't know what Fatal is, that's on you.
If you're listening along at home, please get out your 110-sided die, please.
Although that's not to say that this film isn't horny. For example, Harrison Ford delivers one of the best lines in cinematic history in a very tense scene. I'll give you the full effect of it. So he's got a satellite image and he's doing the old zoom and enhance on it.
Can you enhance that, sharpen it up? Tits.
What I love about that, now that I've like heard it without like actually seeing the picture in front of me, is how much the fucking CIA guy's like computer enhanced feature sounds like Qbit.
I also like that it's subtle that they introduce like the almost like drum beat kind of thing in the background for like, you know, reformed and unreconstructed lust is like, you know, drum beat. Clearly that's what we got to go there with it. Bring out the bongo drums. That's what's needed.
He's making such a fucking face as well when he realizes he's got boobs on his satellite feed. The thing is as well, that follows on.
It's the face every like 12 or 14-year-old boy made in the early aughts when, you know, the 32K6 modem finally produced the first pair of tits.
See, I've been genuinely right. Okay, real seriousness for a second. I've actually been thinking back on this, and I have a theory. And the theory is that we're all a bit like, we are brain poisoned by our access to the internet, and so we've got all the boobs, tits kind of phase out, essentially. Whereas,
Thank you for clarifying there, James. I was confused for a moment.
Yeah, but like, you know, the Harrison Ford, it probably is his first time ever seeing tits on dial-up, essentially. So, you know, kind of it fits.
Well, it
fits.
was 1992, you know what I mean? You had to get a job at the CIA for that sort of thing back then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, that follows on
from
from
those drums as well. I just had to check that James Horner didn't also do the soundtrack for Predator.
James Horny.
That's not a theft.
Yeah, that follows on from the scene where like he goes to splash cold water on his face and then like gets caught in the woman's bathroom.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yes.
And then like, do you know what I mean? And like the woman's just sort of like, oh, I'm sorry, I think one of us is in the wrong bathroom, like really cheerfully. Like that just happens all the time. It's one of the perks of working at the CIA is that Harrison Ford might like try to fucking like get corner you in the bathroom or something. But then he goes out and she comes out and he just stares at her as she's walking away in the corridor while he has like flashbacks to a fucking terrorist attack. Do you know what I mean? But like, she obviously doesn't. She obviously can't see the flashbacks. So to anyone else, he's just staring at that woman as she leaves the bathroom.
And also, it's not just a flashback, but it's a flashback where he remembers things that he doesn't remember seeing.
Yeah,
and it's like okay, fine, whatever. Like you've entered your your CIA mind palace in order to remember like facts from something that happened at the start of this movie. But okay,
yeah. Should we go back and like go through the plot?
Well, before you do, I just want to set the scene for the plot for this. I've got to say, I know he's playing a role, but the things like that the character does in this has got a real Harrison Ford energy to it. Like, it strikes me as the kind of thing that Harrison Ford would probably get up to if Harrison Ford was in the CIA. I don't know any other way to describe that.
And if Harrison Ford wasn't constantly high off his face on weed.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah, he loves a bit of the old devil's lettuce, doesn't he? Big advocate for Lucifer's cress.
Right, David, fucking recap the movie, go on.
Oh my god, right, so Jack Ryan has quit the CIA, but he's to go to London for some talk to some naval pricks, and he delivers that, and as he's delivering it, he's with his wife and daughter, they witness a terrorism happening, and it's the not IRA, especially not the IRA, it's very important.
Yeah, the politics of American 90s cinema would not allow you to portray the IRA as unequivocally evil.
Yep.
That's genuinely true, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's no lies.
But it's not just that though, it's that they are kind of IRA, they're like a rogue cell.
Yeah. A splinter cell, if you will.
Yes.
I mean, it's a recurring theme about like all these movies and we've been watching for this podcast, and like the book that we just reviewed with Sinan. But like the fact that the USSR fell is like the worst thing that's happened to like American action cinema in like cinematic history. It really is. Like they're always trying to bring it back, or they try and do something else instead of the USSR, and it's always just it just has an off feeling about it, you know.
Yeah. But
so they do a lot of stuff. They do a lot of stuff with like evil like Mexican cartels, but you can tell the heart's just not in it in the same way.
Yeah, especially pre 9/11 as well.
Yeah, they just want it back, man. Feel like shit.
They want the ability for a ripped guy shirtlessly to say "you filthy commie" as he's like punching someone or something like that. They really want that back, and it's not there. It's just not there. It's not the same.
Yeah, well, give it a year or two. They've been making a Die Hard where Bruce Willis fights the DSA.
I mean, it is at least exceedingly Irish, because every time somebody Irish appears on stage, there's either the alien music or there's just like Enya or some lilting Irish tune.
Yeah.
Speaking of Irish people like Sean Bean.
Yeah, it's what I love about that. What I love about the start when they're driving to the terrorist attack in their fake taxi is Sean Bean.
Now, I know the movie's horny, but let's not go that direction.
There's Sean Bean and there's two Irish actors, and Sean Bean is making a conscious effort to sound more Irish than the two actual Irishmen in the scene with him. And I just, you know what I mean? I love that, like. And his Irish accent, I don't even think his Irish accent is that bad, although, like, you know, Irish people feel free to yell at me. But
yeah, they will. They absolutely will.
But like compared to some of the fucking horrors we witnessed in like 90s movies about the IRA, you know what I mean? Like fucking Richard Gere in The Jackal.
Yeah. I will say Sean Bean makes this movie for me. Like I think this movie is tolerable because of Sean Bean. I think that's the thing
I'm definitely
it.
here for Sean Bourne's performance in this whole thing. It's he's just having a great time, you know.
Yeah,
yeah. He's just. I love that he's just like pure fucking Raj. Do you know what I mean? Like they just what's his character's motivation? He's Raj, and that's it. It's like, he has to watch.
He's fucking furious. Yeah,
he has to watch his brother, who was credited as Paddy Boy. Do you know what I mean? Like, he has to watch his brother die because Han Solo shoots him in the back or some shit. And then for the rest of the film, he's just like fucking. He's just literally furious the whole time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like,
which is correct.
if we just get on this boat and go and like train with Gaddafi, we'll be able to overthrow the hated English. And he's like, fucking, I don't care about the hated English. I need to kill fucking like Indiana Jones.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. The terrorist attack that they attempt is to wedge a taxi in front of a government vehicle that's carrying like some incredibly fucking minor royal.
Yeah, in the books he's actually the Prince of Wales, but in the movie that's not stated or explained. I don't understand why they
do it.
It's explained. He's like some guy's fucking cousin.
The Queen Mother's cousin,
yeah.
Just and also fucking no-mark.
And also the First Lord of some shit.
I mean, like, just why would you? I don't know why they would purposefully like lower the stakes like this.
I know why they do it. I know why they do it. It's because again, politics of the 90s, right? Yeah. You can't do a film in which the IRA is unequivocally evil, and in the same way,
I vehemently disagree.
Well, and in the same way, you can't do a film where the IRA like has a go at the Prince of Wales. Like it politically would have been untenable. Yeah. So they basically they took it down so it would sell better in Britain and
the papers would have the papers would have kicked
give the IRA ideas.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like that would be the title. Like it'd be big headlines in the Sun, or even fucking News of the World, like saying, fucking sick filth movie films fantasize and provide IRA with fodder for more attacks. What R. thinks of it and all this kind of shit.
Yeah. Fucking, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
if it had actually been an attempt on the Prince of Wales, we'd have heard a lot about it in the years 2016 to 2019. I bet.
Yeah.
So they attempt this shooting. They're going to fucking get the guy who's in the car. This is all fucked up because Han Solo shoots Paddy Boy in the back, and the cops turn up, and then the usual thing happens where he's already the hero and he gets knighted and all sorts, while Sean Bean gets taken away to jail.
Boy, do the cops ever turn up? Because there's like a bunch of soldiers arrive on the scene first. And then you see like a bunch of like fucking like a bunch of classic British bobbies in like fucking in like the old style tit helmet running down the street blowing whistles.
Yeah, the whistles are to scare off the crime.
Those are the two levels of response to fucking terrorism in London in the early 90s. We've got the army and then Dixon of Dock Green.
That's seeming all good, and then obviously Harrison Ford has to go home, and at the same time as that's happening,
which, by the way, is one of the nicest homes I've seen.
He doesn't go home right away. You're skipping over the whole bit where DCI Frank Gallagher like fucking trains him on his like testimony to the court, and he he fucking, and there's a really weird bit in the court that I didn't quite get where they ask him if he still works for the CIA and remind him he's under oath, and he says no, and I'm like, right, okay, he didn't purge himself.
Technically, according to the books, he does not work for the CIA. He works for a front company that is the CIA, but, technically correct, the best kind of correct.
Nothing comes.
They simplified that. Yeah, no, they simplified that in the film by him actually not being there, because that's when Darth Vader turns up to offer him his job back and he turns it down.
Yeah.
I hate this film so much.
I mean, so I don't know how we're going to spend, we better not spend, the next, 45 minutes talking about the plot, because there's just nothing fucking happens for the majority of this fucking movie.
Yeah. But yeah, Sean Bean gets sprung from Chokey by a rocket launcher attack on London Bridge or some shit.
Yeah,
or is it meant to be somewhere in Kent? I don't know. It's kind of confusing.
They do say it's in Kent, didn't they?
It's in the countryside.
They say later on that it's in Kent, but they're when it's shot, it's definitely in the middle. It looks like the middle of London, But weirdly, there's no one.
The van stops. The van stops because the bridge is fucking gone up.
Aye.
Yeah, they say that he's been. They say that he's been liberated somewhere in Kent. It's a very confused film. There's a theme of that.
Yeah, but then he escapes on a fucking dinghy across the channel, and it's later revealed that he boarded a Libyan freighter because of those Libyans. Do you know what I mean?
Dastardly Libyans.
Yeah. First they killed Doc Brown, and now they fucking train the IRA. There's just
When
no
was
end
we-
to their cinematic evils.
So when was Lockerbie bombing again? Can you remember, David?
After this, I think.
Was it? Okay.
No, it was before this. This was 1992. Lockerbie definitely happened before this.
Oh, it was 1988. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's what I thought. That's why I took the whole Libyan thing in this, because Libya, Lockerbie, all the shit that went down with it, the narrative that was spun about it.
No,
like,
yeah, I definitely remember that Lockerbie had happened before I started secondary school, because my first year of secondary school, they put up a notice board in one of the classrooms where kids could go in and like do sanctioned graffiti between classes, and then they had to take it down after a week because someone put a joke up about how they were gonna let Fred West off because it turned out he bought his topsoil from Lockerbie. And it was just like, no, okay, right, we can't give the kids this this outlet for their fucking creativity, apparently.
Jamie, did you put that up? Because that sounds exactly like the sort of joke you come up with.
No, I was 11, man. That was a bit like a fucking ahead of me, like, you know what I mean?
This is the dojo that Jamie trained.
Yeah. I was standing looking at that like Batman in the rainy alley. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's established canon that Jamie was a poster in the world before posting.
Oh, fuck me. Oh, yes. Excellent. What were we talking about? Libyans.
Yeah.
He jumps
Libyans,
a tanker to Libya.
That's right, because the IRA has training camps in Libya.
Well, everybody has training camps in Libya. Like, it's the IRA, the PLO, the Red Army Brigade.
Yeah, they reel off. Like, they're just sitting reading reading a page from the manual for Sid Meier's covert action. Do you know what I mean? Like, just listing all these, like, diabolical fucking terrorist groups.
It just makes me want to spend my next holiday in the Libyan desert hanging out with cool people, but, you know.
Yeah, CIA analysts just like, you know what I mean, like who were all these training camps, and the guy's just winging it and listing all the ones that like Alan Rickman does in Die Hard. Do you know what I mean? Like, the Asian Dawn.
Oh yeah, so that all happens, and then Harrison Ford gets told that Sean Bean's escaped from prison, and they tell him, "You're no danger, it's fine though," and he goes, "That's fine, I'm not worried." And then
where's the first place fucking scene Bean goes?
Yeah.
To his fucking wife's his daughter's school, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great that like they set like an assassin after fucking Jack Ryan, but then Sean Bean, who is just like incredibly like horny for murdering Jack Ryan, decides he doesn't want the Jack Ryan half of that job, and instead wants to go and like just spray his fucking wife's Porsche with an Uzi on the freeway. And it's just like, it's really weird, that bit as well, because he's like pulling up alongside, like ready to like shoot her, just as Jack Ryan's ringing her to say, "Look out, Sean Bean's about to shoot you." And then some car, just some random dickhead just starts barging in. Like, there's a van there with like an Irish guy hanging out with an Uzi, like about to shoot a Porsche, and some guy's like, "No, I'm late for my meeting." Just like blasts his way through between the two of them and disrupts the plan.
Yeah, it's like that bit in Olympus Has Fallen where the guys just keep turning up with guns. Like, it's the most like This Is Normal America scene.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But the attempted hit on Jack Ryan himself is great. Like, he's coming out of the naval college where he teaches history or some shit.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the naval college, which is essentially a place filled with people with guns. Like, it's
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he sees one guy across the street looking shifty, and then like the guy walks away when he clocks him. And he goes down the street, but then he sees the guy like has come back and is following him in the back of a like mirrored van, and then like gets into a fist fight with the guy. The guy gets the drop on him, but then like all the guards from the Naval Academy like machine gun the guy in the street, and then Jack Ryan goes and gets in his car to ring his wife, and while like a Navy guy's tapping on the window, and he just locks the door. Do you know what I mean?
It's like... I love that scene. That scene made me fucking crack up, because it's like the like Navy guard guy is like trying to like rap on the window, like, "Are you okay?" And he's just like trying to just get away from this fucking this guard that he doesn't trust.
Honestly,
what I loved about this was, who the fuck starts their car during an IRA assassination attempt? I thought this fucking worked in intelligence. Do you know what I mean? And the first thing he does is like, let's see if they've car bombed me, and then he's just away down the street.
Now, for me, my absolute favorite thing is like this is the crack, or at least a semi-crack IRA hit team, and where they decide to do it is not like 2 blocks away from the Naval Academy, where you could presumably get away with such things, but like literally where 5 armed guards with machine guns can see them. It's really astonishing planning on their part.
It's weird though, because like later on they fucking like Sean Bean's complaining that you know, the fucking like he saw the wife and kid die, which he didn't, but that like they sent like fucking, you know what I mean, like Larry the fucking screw up to kill Jack Ryan, and he's not dead. And the other guy says like, but you tripped, like did what we needed it to do. And it's like, as far as I could figure out, that was what they needed that to do, was increase the security on Jack Ryan, so that when the fucking like the Archduke or whoever the fuck it was came to visit him in America, he would have to go to his house because like the Ryans were in lockdown and couldn't go to like the embassy or some shit. So like, do you know what I mean? Had they killed the whole family, I don't know what the fuck like they were expecting to like do after that.
Also, like, how like thorough are you as a hitman, where you just assume that a car crash that you've caused has killed your target?
Oh well, I mean, are you gonna do a U-turn on an American freeway? Like, it's not worth the fucking trouble, is it? Really, you know what I mean?
So we've got the royal cousin or whatever the fuck he is. Decides that he's going to come over and see Jack Ryan, but there's a guy in his office who's working for the not IRA.
Yeah.
Who like makes sure that all this happens and masterminds it, because
that's
exactly
it's not just any guy though. It's Captain Hastings from Poirot.
For fuck's sake. Oh, right, okay. So yeah, Captain Hastings masterminds all this not even masterminds, just facilitates all of this to make sure that this happens in the right way, and they visit, and then they do a bunch of tactical shit, because you're missing the incredible fucking 10 minutes of like just blistering hot cinema, where like the fucking like guy, the rare bookseller that the IRA are using as their fucking go-between, gets like spied on by the cops, and a fuse blows, and he calls Lofty from EastEnders to come and like fix the wiring, and they're just talking about the fucking electrics for like 5 minutes in the middle of this political thriller, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, like this is electric stuff, pun intended.
When the fucking portly rare book guy realizes that there's a fucking the electrician pulls like the big camera going, oh, what's this? And he's like, oh, I've got
camera out of the ceiling and goes like, what do you make of this?
And he goes, oh, I've got some urgent books I need to deliver. And he just grabs a fucking handful of books and runs to the nearest fucking phone stall, fucking phone box. That's the one.
Box.
Yeah, phone booth.
It's okay. Baby hasn't used them before. It's all right.
What do you mean? Where else am I meant to get those pamphlets?
Holy shit! Wow. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well done.
Oh, you know, he doesn't. He runs away and bolts onto the tube, and like he manages to evade them. And
DCI Gallagher misses him because he gives some woman his hat.
And then the next thing you know, he's in Libya to be shot by Sean Bean.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, what was the point of that guy?
Oh, do you know what it is as well? At that point in the film, it's not even DCI Gallagher anymore, is it? It's fucking Alan Armstrong.
Or maybe it'll be only you know these fucking people.
Yeah, he's a local hero, Alan Armstrong, man.
I mean, the whole point of that guy is to point out that there's a betrayer inside the inner circle of the not Prince of Wales.
Oh man! Like,
anyway, can we move off this movie because it's really quite boring?
Oh, we got to talk about the exciting fucking night vision at the end, though. You know what I mean? Tom Clancy's Ghost will be furious if we don't bring up the night vision. Jesus Christ!
Yeah, the IRA fully cladded out in tier 1 operator ship with the night vision goggles and everything.
Yeah, they've got. Just got to remember, they've got like because they're a Splinter Cell, they've got like the goggles from Splinter Cell with like the 3 bits, but one of them's orange, one of them's white, and one of them's green. So,
so these guys are dressed like to the gills in like tactical nonsense, and they all run around like they've never held a gun before. It's great.
I love how like his house is surrounded by like fucking tier 1 operators, and the IRA, like the 3 people from the IRA or 4 people or whatever it is, just like kill all of the fucking like Secret Service guys, like
without
house.
blinking.
Then like get to the house and are just confused by the fact that the family have hidden. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're on for like 10 minutes just bumbling around in the fucking dark.
Yeah, and then there's a really fucking stupid chase scene in boats. And then,
the fucking that scene is incredible.
If you've ever wanted to see like Han Solo kneecap Captain Hastings from Poirot, this is the movie for you.
I also say it's got a pretty good Sean Bean death in it, like in my opinion.
Oh, it's a classic. It's a classic like fucking like 80s / early 90s like villain exit, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it really
Gets impaled on a fucking anchor and then the boat explodes. It's up there with like fucking
dumb shit of a movie.
Well,
it's up there with like Tommy Lee Jones's death in Under Siege, where he gets like a thumb through his eye, stabbed in the top of the head with a knife, and then his face put through a radar screen.
Honestly, all that's missing is something like "Give my regards to Poseidon" or some shit like that, and it's like strictly in in keeping.
It's great though. I love how plotted by necessity this film is. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
it's so good. It's like you know what I mean. The assassination attempt on Jack Ryan. Why isn't Sean Bean doing that if he's so mad for killing him? Because if they foiled his assassination attempt, the film would be over. Do you know what I mean? It's like, like you know what I mean. The Sinn Féin guy in America swears he'll never betray an Irishman, but luckily that woman turns out to really be from Yorkshire, so he can betray her.
Yeah, so that can be betrayed
by proxy, all of the fucking like people with her, and like you know what I mean. It's like, oh well, how are we gonna like square the fact that like a lot of Americans support the IRA? We can't show the IRA like causing a fucking like sweet innocent American child to lose a spleen. They're not the IRA. Do you know what I mean? The IRA are actually very mad about them. And then like at the end, it's like, how are we gonna like there's a boat chase underway, and how are we gonna like have Jack Ryan like, it might be bloodthirsty if Jack Ryan kills too many people, and also he can't shoot a woman. Sean Bean shoots his like fucking compatriots, like just you know what I mean? Just out of pure rage, they go like, maybe we shouldn't be chasing this one dipshit into a hurricane, and Sean Bean's just like fucking and like machine guns them. You know what I mean? It's great, like.
Yeah.
I mean, at least Sean Bean stayed true to his character, like from start to finish. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Jamie, thank you for causing immense damage to my relationship by making us watch this movie.
Fuck, this was Rob's idea, man.
This was not my idea.
All right, pass the blame around. I'll see how it is.
Yeah, right. I'm stopping this right now. This was my idea. It wasn't actually my idea, but for the purposes of pod law, it was my idea. Let's go with that.
Well, we talk about the other film, the worst film we watched.
Yeah, we started at the high point, listener.
Did any of us actually watch this though? Because I only finished it like 20 minutes ago, and I can't remember.
You know me, I do all the content because otherwise I have nothing to talk about. So I, of course, watched all these fucking things.
Go on, Rob. Tell us about the other film.
No,
then.
I don't
what
want
was
to
it, Rob?
The best part of this what's it even fucking called? I can't
Without
even remember.
Remorse.
Without remorse. The best part of this whole movie is in the first like 10 minutes where a guy just gets run over by a van and the van just fucks off immediately. It's just extremely funny to me that way that scene is shot.
No, the best part is the guy that gets run over. It's like a second after that, you hear his young daughter go, "Daddy!" Just if you don't feel bad enough.
What's baffling about that is I don't understand why they had to kill, like, because they go, oh, they've killed like 2 of the people from fucking like John T. Kelly's fucking unit or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why. Because if their plan is that they go to like storm his house and then leave a dead Russian in his house, and then the Americans will be like,
Yeah,
we found one dead Russian in this guy's house. We need to start a war. So they also have to run a guy over and then shoot a guy in traffic and leave no evidence of like Russian involvement in either of those scenes. It just seems like weird. Also, they go from like, we ran over one guy as he was putting the bins out. Go, right, that's outside his house. That's clever. You know where that is, and it looks like an accident. Then the second guy, he just happened to get stuck behind us in traffic, so we jumped out of the van and shot him. Do you know what I mean? It's like seems slightly.
While he's on the phone, no less.
Seems slightly less plausible, but okay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the lead is Michael B. Jordan, who I've had like a sort of a soft spot for as an actor since he did the last. He's pretty good. Like he did the last two seasons of Friday Night Lights, in which he was very, very fucking good.
He's a really good actor. He's a really good actor. Is Michael B. Jordan B. Peterson.
Come on.
Well, he's also in the Rocky, the last two Rocky things, which are also quite good, I thought.
I haven't seen them.
Anyway, the whole plot is Michael B. Jordan B. Peterson is a special operative, super killer guy. Gets sent into Syria, I think, to do something or other for the CIA.
He's in Syria, and Billy Elliot has him like fucking kidnap a Russian.
Yeah, exactly.
Another film that's just crying out for the USSR.
Yeah.
Anyway, they do that. The mission is not quite what is said that it would. The operatives all go back home.
You can't trust the CIA. What is the world coming to? I love that they portray like the CIA analyst guy in this one as like a badass as well. Do you know what I mean? Who like goes in with the frontline troops and everything, as opposed to Jack Ryan, where it's like, the CIA are like on the case. Cut to like a bunch of fucking nerds in an office arguing about stuff. Like yeah.
So they get, and then they figure out that the guy who sent all the killers to get the special operative, special boys, was some kind of Russian super soldier.
Yeah, it's like
evil mastermind guy.
The CIA say they're not going to investigate the like shooting at the guy's house because it's tit for tat. Like they shot some Russians in Syria, so the Russians shot like some Americans in America, and that's like all fair. Do you know what I mean? It's like now we're even. But
to be fair,
John, he's not happy with that because like he saw the eyes of the man who killed his wife.
Yeah, and exactly. And he swears many revenges.
And then he goes on what I can only describe as a rampage for the rest of the movie.
It's so bizarre though, because he gets given the information. He gets given the information. It's like, oh well, these are the guys. We don't know who the fourth guy was, but this like bloke at the embassy is the guy.
He does know.
He approved the passport, so he'll know. So he then goes to a motel and like pisses on his own clothes and like covers himself in alcohol so that he can turn up at the front of the embassy pretending to be like drunk. But then I don't understand why. Did he just fancy wearing pissy clothes that day or something? 'Cause he just sort of like staggers up to the two bodyguards and then like watches the guy leave. The guy leaves in a car and he just goes and like follows him. And it's he surely you could have just waited outside the embassy until the guy left in the car. Why did you need to like piss on yourself and then like go up and fucking like across the guards outside?
Jamie, how else are you going to know that he's really mad? He's so furious about his dead wife.
I don't doubt that he's absolutely
spycraft.
He's absolutely fucking pissing mad about it. Yeah, like quite
literally. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway,
he's got a fucking
whatever. He gets the info, and then it turns out that they have to go to Russia to kill the evil Russian.
Don't sell it short, man. He sicks the cops on the SUV full of fucking security guys so that only the limo will arrive at the airport, and then he rams the limo with a fucking pickup with a tow truck.
Yeah,
sets the limo on fire, and then gets into the burning limo to like torture the guy. And then,
this is how you really know that he's not only is he's mad, he's tortured as well, because he's literally climbing into the flames with what is essentially a sworn enemy of his now.
Yeah, and it's just so dull.
You can see the intelligence inherent. The intelligence inherent in him, because like after he like comes out of the burning limo, having just shot a guy with a gun in his hand, surrounded by cops, while black, and like covered in piss, he's like, oh no, it's okay, I'm special forces or whatever, and just the cops are just fine with that.
Yeah, the
it's
cops
like,
are just like, oh, we have to respect the troop. You know what I mean? even one covered in like piss and the blood of Russian like bureaucrats. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a fucking like a motif of this film is that nothing feels important. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, he's just rammed a car, set it on fire, and got in the back seat, and it's just like shot like it's just like, yeah, he's just having a good time. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. These are just some events that are occurring. There's no like importance or like urgency to them.
Yeah,
it's just like the whole way through. It's like that.
Yeah, so Michael B. Jordan gets thrown in jail, but then gets out of it again because he's the only person.
I mean, this is
lead the team to catch.
He gets
evil.
He gets out after doing his best Charles Bronson impression.
Yeah, he does kick the shit out of a bunch of prison guards, which I can fully appreciate and get behind.
He gets out because he tells Greer, who if I'm not mistaken is like the niece of James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
Is
that who she is?
Yeah, that's who she's meant to be. Yeah.
Yeah, like not like the actress from Peterborough, I think, but no, like the
I mean,
like the character.
Fuck's sake,
the character is meant to be like the niece of Jim Greer. Is it Jim Greer?
Yeah, Jim Greer. Yeah. For sure,
which is
you can tell I paid a lot of attention to who these characters were, can't you?
Just James Earl Jones in the original
she's a girl boss Navy SEAL as well. Yeah.
She's the commander of the Navy SEALs. Even she's the Supergirl boss,
which is like so fucking hard trying to make some kind of fucking point about the military being very modern or some shit. Because I'm pretty sure like 2 women have passed the tests that you need to go through to join the SEALs, but you also need to do those same tests for like driving the boats for the SEALs, and I'm pretty sure that that's both those women are actually doing. So yeah, cool. Okay.
Oh, I mean, I know from the Jack Ryan TV show that like driving the boat is a special, unique skill that no one in the Navy possesses. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, did Jim Halpert say that?
He gets out of prison because he tells her that he knows like who done it, and so he gets to go and see fucking Mike from Neighbours, who's like very interested in finding out who done it.
I do like how when after he's like been freed from prison, goes to like the like secret place that they're all the
it's a shipping
secret intelligence people,
a shipping container in a warehouse. That's how you know they're serious about
And to make sure that he's not lying about knowing who this guy is, they bring up like what would you call it? Like a gallery of
lineup,
lineup of like 8 people, and he just says, "Oh, top right one." It would be quite funny if he just fucking guessed that.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh well, shit. There's no possible way that our gambit could have gone wrong. Definitely not a 1 in 8 chance of it falling over."
But yeah, it's like the thing is though, it's like. He's on the team, and like Greer says, I don't think we should take him because he's a fucking like liability at the minute. You know what I mean? I don't know if anyone remembers, but just recently he set a car on fire and then sat in the back of it torturing a guy.
Yeah, it's probably not a good idea to bring a person on this operation that is on a rampage.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like Guy Pearce is having none of it. He's like, no, I don't remember that. So they they fucking take him anyway, and then like they have to go on a 747 that looks like a passenger plane, but it's actually like a CIA fucking like thing that you just jump out the back of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's got all the gear.
It's also the worst hidden thing because they're like, yeah, we're pretending to be like a regular flight, but then they're like, oh yeah, no, we're hiding. Like, but then there's literally no passengers on board. It's like the worst.
Yeah, a fighter turns up just as they're all about they've got the back door open and they're all about to jump out, and a fighter buzzes them and they're like, "Shit, close the doors, pretend we're not in." You know what I mean? It's like it's a terrible plan, and the Russians were right to shoot them down. Do you know what I mean? Like, But yeah, there's intrigue because Billy Elliot wasn't on the plane. He arranges like his own fucking personal transport, so they're like, he must be behind it. But then they like fucking Jonty fucking chokes him half to death and decides that because he didn't like fucking piss himself, he must be telling the truth. And they all
Also,
they all go to do
when
a
they-
war crime on Russian soil, don't they?
but when this like fighter jet shoots them down, like he spends like a good like fucking 20 minutes or some shit underwater. It feels like, just like fully turns into a fish man so that he can liberate all of this like special ops gear. I assume this is a requirement of getting into whatever the fuck he's in.
Boat. They need the boat. I can't remember what they call it.
The Zodiac.
The Zodiac. That's the one. Yeah.
Anyway, they end up in Russia. They meet Billy Elliot. Yeah, they
they meet who, Rob? Billy Elliot.
They meet Vanilla Ice. Yeah.
So they meet Billy Elliot again, and then
Billy Elliot.
Oh, hey, that's incredible.
Yeah, anyway, they meet that guy again, decide that he's not actually the traitor.
Yeah.
And then they go off to find the real Russian super monster villain guy, who turns out to be
an American.
Yeah, and also a CIA
Oh,
agent.
yeah, spoiler alert, it's actually the CIA all the way down.
Yeah. It's great, though, because when they're reading the fucking backstory on, like, the guy who has, like, a really, ostentatiously Russian name, when they're, like, reading his, like, dossier at the CIA, they mention, like, briefly that he spent, like, he came to America as a child briefly, and I think that's meant to forgive the fact that they just hired an American to play him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's much like in the fucking third Has Fallen film. If you've ever been to like
a country,
the US, you immediately take on the accent.
Yeah.
So same logic applies.
Yeah, that guy does like a suicide bomb, and then
after doing like a dramatic speech saying we're all pawns on the chessboard.
Yeah, it's geopolitics, son. Do you know what I mean? And then like blows himself up, and then snipers pin them down, and they have to do some literal Rainbow Six shit where they like make a new door by like blowing a hole in the wall so that they can get out and like flank the snipers or something.
Well, they end up like essentially everybody ends up escaping via different routes, but first they do sort of empty the whole city of cops and soldiers because it's just like a slaughterhouse of a scene.
Well, the snipers start shooting the cops to like make it look like the Americans shot the cops.
Yeah,
and then they escape the snipers, and there's more and more cops arriving, and fucking Michael B. Jordan says like, well, as far as the world's concerned, he's not a soldier, he's a felon. So if he dies here, it doesn't matter. And everyone else like heroically escapes in the van they came in, while he goes up to the roof and shoots at the police. But he like
just like fully crazy, just like shooting people off the top of a roof. It's great.
Yeah, he's like shooting at the cars and throwing grenades at the cars, and his fucking like his grenade throwing like arm is just incredible. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
the motherfucker should be like doing like Major League Baseball or something, because he just like he just pitches one of these grenades off the roof, and it like takes out a car and only a car every time. Do you know what I mean? There's just no there's no bounce or anything. It's just no like. Nothing but net every shot. Do you know what I mean? Like fucking just taking out these cars everywhere, and then like, and only shooting at the cars as well because he doesn't want to kill any police. But that changes as soon as the police get to the rooftop, and he just starts like shooting them and yeeting them down staircases and all sorts. And there's a weird like motif that because when he confronts the Russians in his house at the start, him and the fucking like the guy that just blew himself up. When they like meet on the fucking like landing, they both like just empty their guns while staggering to like because they shoot each other immediately and then empty their guns while staggering towards each other and falling over. And then as he's coming down the stairs here,
while a torch rolls around, very moodily lighting both of them.
Yeah. And then while he's coming down the stairs in this apartment after fighting like 100 Russians in the most boring, like it's like so weird because it's like, oh, they're not doing the Jason Bourne thing of like shaky cam and jump cuts. They're showing you the action, but it's just like, you know what I mean? You just don't feel anything. I don't know if it's the music choice or what, like, but it just feels
it's incredibly flat.
I mean,
that's a pretty good description of Tom Clancy's shit generally, to be honest. It's like, it's full of rich detail that you'd expect to have an emotional reaction to, and yet the way it's delivered, no matter what medium, there's not really any emotional reaction to it.
Yeah. But yeah, and as he like staggers down the stairs into the lobby of the building, he like shoots a bunch of like people while falling over again, and then he blows up the bottom floor of the building, and escapes in an ambulance. Like
but he's wearing an outfit from
dresses up as one of the Russian like bomb guys, and then escapes in an ambulance. And then they go back to America, but the CIA guy decides that like he just happens to have a bag of money that he can give him. And they'll tell everyone that he died, and then he can sneak up on Guy Pearce in a toilet and like fucking attack him like Agent 47.
Oh my god. Oh, right, so yeah, he does this and he takes him into the car, and then he confronts him, and there's this whole fucking insanely ideological speech that he gives.
Yeah.
Fuck me, I've got the transcript here, right, so I'm just going to read this.
Oh, good.
Go.
Do you know who won World War II? It wasn't the generals or the admirals. It was the economists. More tanks, planes, ships, and all that spending lifted this entire nation out of poverty, freed the world from tyranny. A big country needs big enemies. The best enemy we ever had was the Soviet Union.
Oh, they missed them.
Can I get a drop, please?
The irony of a military-industrial complex speech.
Yes.
Please be upstanding for the meal ticket of the military-industrial complex. Like, goddamn, the irony of that appearing in a Clancy property should not be lost on anyone.
Yeah. Our fear of them
the
people...
USSR is a hero to people the world over.
Our fear of them unified our people, gave us purpose. The problem today, John, is half this country thinks the other half is its enemy because they have no one else to fight. So we gave them a real enemy.
This is like, I'm not kidding. This is like literally Project for a New American Century. That's literally what they did. They said like, now the USSR doesn't exist anymore. We need to have a new one because otherwise, like, you know, the American experience will fall apart. That's literally why they psychos thought they needed to go into Iraq. This is, you know, fucking statecraft at this point.
like this is obviously being said. Yeah, this is all being said by like the big bad guy. But like, it's kind of like this is kind of. It's just a bit confused because it's like
do you know what it is? It is a worse version of the speech delivered many years later in Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance by the crazy antagonist. Right? That's what it is.
I don't think that was many years later though. This film, believe it or not, only came out like 2 years ago.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. So it's very recent.
Oh wow!
It's kicking off presumably kicking off a new Amazon like fucking funded.
It came out this year.
Yeah,
Did it?
Yeah, but it's been in development for 20 years, so...
Well, do you think they, like, stopped when Metal Gear Rising Revengeance came out and they went, shit, they've stolen our bit, let's rewrite it?
No, probably not. Do you know what I mean? I feel
Tom Clancy would have been hard for nanotech, is what I'm saying.
So, yeah, he drowns fucking Guy Pearce in a river, and then sees his wife on the island from Lost. Well, you know what I mean. She tells him there is a heaven, but this isn't it. Do you know what I mean? Like they're not there yet.
Yeah. His wife turns around and says, "Darling, heaven is a place on earth." Essentially.
Oh, do you know what else I want to address here? Like, I don't know. I've no fucking idea where this came into the script or when this was added. But as like the water's coming up in the car when he's drove it into the river, he continually fucking goes on at Guy Pearce to say his wife's name.
Yeah.
And full on gives it the say her name stuff. And I'm like, this feels weird here. Like, I don't know how much I like this. Like, I don't know, it just felt icky. I don't know.
I mean, like, the whole film just has no real emotional heft behind any of it. Like, it's like, yeah, his wife is killed, like, 15 minutes into the start of the movie, and it's just like, ennui just consumes you for the rest of the movie. Like, so okay, so he's got the guy who kind of gave the go ahead for his wife to be killed, and it's like, okay, say her name, Yeah, okay. It's just like there's
no,
nothing.
it's not even that. It's like it's the whole like it's a Black Lives Matter kind of fucking bit, and it's like, why is the Tom Clancy film doing that? That feels really weird. That's what put me off about it. It was like, what? No, I don't like that.
Anyway, the weird thing is, and James, you confessed to me once upon a time that you had also read the books. This movie, script-wise, has absolutely nothing at all with the actual story of the book, which is way more dark and way more fucked up in many ways. Because in the book, his wife isn't his wife. His wife is a prostitute that John T. Kelly rescues from, I don't know, somewhere in a bad part of town. And then he helps her detox by literally putting her through like cold turkey therapy by locking her in a closet in his apartment until it gets better. Then drives her to follow up therapy or something, where her former pimp notices her, shoots up the windows of the car, kidnaps her. She gets like gang raped and murdered, and he is left for dead. And there's a whole subplot where he has to like rescue Vietnam prisoners of war who are being interrogated by evil USSR agents. And like there's a really, really fucked up scene in the middle of the book where like he's on a rampage as well, but this time against like the pimp drug dealer guy. And like he kidnaps one of his henchmen. And there's like a pages long scene where he kidnaps one of the henchmen and like tortures him using a pressure chamber, like a hyperbaric chamber. Where
shit, no. Oh man, it's all coming flooding back to me. I hate you for this. Would. Oh no, I blocked that. I genuinely blocked. I read this way too long ago, and it's all coming back. Oh no.
And like he gets the guy to confess by essentially exposing him to like severe decompression sickness by like essentially exploding all the veins in his body. It's incredibly like
I love to torture people by like turning their cells into soup.
Yeah, but that's literally what happens. Like it's one of the like it remains with me even now, even though I read this book when I was a teenager. Like it's really incredibly fucked up. And
like I remember reading it, and so you get right. Okay, so we're just going to go here. Sorry, I know you said no horny on the pod, David, but bear with me.
I'm curious how you're turning this into horny. Fucking hell.
Well, you get the impression. You get the impression that well, this is the thing. You get the impression that Tom Clancy is having a wank under the table as he's writing with one hand, basically, and a lot of the stuff he writes. Okay, and there's two areas where it really comes to the fore, right? And neither of them are actual sex scenes. One of them is when he's talking about military hardware, right? The other is when he's writing the dark torture scene shit. I don't know any other way to describe it. It just feels grotty in a way that isn't just... It's not the subject matter is horrific enough, it's the way he describes it.
Yeah.
It feels like he's getting off on it. It honestly, it feels like he's into it.
It's later season 24 levels of really fucked up kind of...
Yes.
Fuck's sake.
You know, like really, really not on. But yeah, the book is like...
I'm glad they've managed to continue that in the same vein that the FBI says Happy Martin Luther King Day. Like, that's cool. Good shit.
But yeah, it's an incredibly fucked up movie, and by the end, he's literally like killed his way through the entire Vietnamese army, a drug gang, and like a whole other series of people who all have to get slaughtered. But by the end, the police is on him, and they figure it out. And then the guy to whom John T. Kelly confesses that he's killed literally every single person in Baltimore is Jack Ryan's father, and that sort of ties it back into the Jack Ryan series.
Right.
It's really fucked up. But the thing that ties this into its successor movie is if it ever gets made, the Without Remorse the movie is the end credit scene where we are promised Rainbow Six.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other films, please stop doing post-credit scenes challenge.
Yes, please.
Yeah, like this film did not fucking earn a post-credit scene. Holy shit.
Correct.
No, it did not.
Well, the thing is, like, post-credit scenes, right, they're not intrinsically a bad idea when they're used as, like, a coda to a film, right? But what quickly happened is the Disney execs realised, we can use post-credit scenes as basically captive advertisement for upcoming properties, and now everyone does it just to advertise other shit. And it's just the worst thing in the world. I hate it. I really hate it. I don't need a teaser for the next film.
Ask anyone who's ever worked in a fucking cinema how much of a pain in the cunt post-credit scenes are.
Yes.
Also, not everyone uses them as fucking advertising unless they are actually making a fucking sequel to Angel Has Fallen, where him and his dad just piss in a fucking bath all day.
I mean, I don't know, man, but like, it feels like more and more of them are doing that these days. Though it feels like that's the direction. It's like everything has to be a property because Capital says everything has to be like a franchise property, right? And that means everything has to have a next time on,
Yeah.
Well,
I'm waiting for the James.
You got to keep your investors happy.
I miss the days where what you get at the end of the credits was something like James Bond will return. No details, just like there's going to be another one, guys. Carry on, sort of thing. Like that's all you need at most.
I mean,
and even then,
to be fair, at this stage, you're like probably a safe bet is more likely than not there's going to be a sequel to whatever film you're watching.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
especially if there's Amazon money involved.
But
exactly.
Rainbow Six is, if they make it and if they follow the book, is going to be fucking wild. I haven't played the game.
They're not gonna fucking. I tell you, I guarantee you, they're not gonna just make a fucking film about Rainbow Six. It's gonna be like a series of films and a TV show.
Like I think Rainbow Six
game. Like would not surprise me if Amazon like tried to fucking somehow do the thing where because like Ubisoft obviously own all the rights to do Tom Clancy games forever.
Yeah,
and they get around not having the rights for like books by writing books based on the games.
Yeah,
so it wouldn't surprise me if Amazon try to like make Rainbow Six games, but like claim that they're legally distinct from Ubisoft's Rainbow Six games because they're based on the films.
Yeah.
Well, we see. Here's the thing, actually. The Rainbow Six novel that was actually written to tie in with the release of the first Rainbow Six game. And can I talk a little bit about Rainbow Six and then the Rainbow Six game series? Am I okay to go off here a little
bit?
Yeah.
We're done with like fucking Billy Elliot's geopolitical adventure. So let's move on.
Yeah. So by way back, actually, before we get going on this, just because we're going to be touching on video games, I want to ask you guys a serious question. Over under, right? Just give me your closest your bet. How many Tom Clancy's video games have there been? Do you want to take a guess?
75.
100.
56.
36.
Okay. Rob is technically closer. There have been 45 at last count.
Jesus
fuck's sake.
Yeah, right. But don't worry, everyone else will have been correct at one point or another if you wait long enough, right? Because it's a long rolling thing. And what's really weird about the video game thing is how it actually got started because Tom Clancy, it still blows my fucking mind. Tom Clancy founded a video games studio.
He did. That's right.
Yeah.
In
1996, Clancy co-founded Red Storm Entertainment, right? Red Storm Rising, Red Storm Entertainment. Get it? Uh-huh. And so they published The Hunt for Red October on IBM PC, Commodore 64, and Amiga in 1987. And then
how are they, Jamie?
Oh, goddamn. Yeah, and then the next year they followed up with Red Storm Rising in 1988, right? Same idea, a submarine sim basically loosed on the thing. But what's really funny is clearly Red Storm Rising didn't go so well, so we're like, okay, let's go back to the classics. And so then in 1990, 3 years later, they published The Hunt for Red October, a different game, except If they went back to the very first game they'd done and redid it, and then produced another version specifically for the NES. And so they basically did all this, but it didn't go very well, right? And it kept going all the way through to the 2000s. They did The Sum of All Fears in 2002, which was a tactical first-person shooter.
That game was fucking incredible. A mate of mine bought that. I remember coming back from fucking PC World or wherever the fuck you'd be, and he's like, "Oh, I got this. It looks fucking really good. It looks like Counter-Strike." And I'm like, "Yeah, the film was shit, mate." And he's like, "Well, I'm going to play the game anyway." And he was like, "The game was shit." I was like, "Well, I fucking did tell you." Do you know what I mean? I just try to warn you. So, it's like the worst thing I've ever fucking played.
Yeah, and the thing is, they also produced other games during this time, including and I think this is fair to say this was their breakthrough game. This is a game where people sat up and took notice. They produced Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, and Tom Clancy clearly realised that cross-marketing was what they needed here, so the book and the game basically released at the same time. And Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six is mind-melting, the actual novel, and the game by extension.
Yes, I don't know how does the game closely track the plot of the book?
I mean, like, okay, I'll be totally honest, the plot of the game is all, like, a bit of a text dump in between missions, so not really is the short version. The game itself was actually pretty good at the time. It's basically a squad combat simulator where, like, half the game is you've got a 3D map of a level, which is pretty cool, right? And you plot out what your party are essentially going to do at different times. And you basically lock in, and like with them, you know, station up on this point, wait for my go signal and all of this. And basically you do like this tactical deployment thing, and then you can control one of the people at a time. And essentially you go in and you basically play it out. Like half the game is you're planning with your squad how you're going to tackle this hostage terrorist situation, and the other half is you actually executing it. And then it has like injuries and stuff that kind of occur during game that can actually kill people and take out your squad mates. You have to recruit new people.
Okay, so it's like XCOM kind of.
It's like a 3D planning first person execution XCOM, right?
It's Counter-Strike for people who fuck spreadsheets.
Yeah. Yes. There you go. That is actually it, right? And it was quite good at its time. Like genuinely, it was an innovation at its time. It's completely removed from the modern Rainbow Six series for fairly obvious reasons. But the plot, I mean, where do we even start? How about the enemy? How about, like, before we get to what Rainbow Six is, which is mind-melting enough, how about we talk about the fucking enemy of Rainbow Six? Because, you know, it's a worldwide genocide attempt by eco-terrorists is what they're fighting.
Yeah.
And, like, if that alone, you could not make... I do not think you could make Rainbow Six, like, straight down the barrel on TV today. Because I think everyone would be like, what, eco-terrorists wanting to commit worldwide genocide? I don't think so, mate. Like, it's a entirely different time.
Yeah, we've all seen Thanos.
I mean, it's absolutely wild. It's essentially like... there's Rainbow Six, but the bad guys are, as James said, like, they're eco-terrorists, but they hire a former KGB guy who knows a lot of terrorists to reactivate the terrorists, so they do a series of different crimes. So another part of the eco-terrorist gets the contract to do security at Olympic Games, where they will release modified Ebola, which they got from a previous book where Iran had merged with Iraq to form the United Islamic Republic, and they had already released Super Ebola into the US.
Oh, yeah, by the way, Tom Clancy doesn't actually understand any geopolitics, but, like, I know we're kind of linked to the table with this one, but just as a by the way.
Okay, cool. Right, so this is basically... The enemy is basically the Suicide Squad, but Ted Kaczynski's in it.
Kinda, a little bit. But then Rainbow Six itself is also equally mad. Rob, you go on. Tell them what Rainbow Six is.
All right, so Rainbow Six is like a Counter-Strike team, but they're made up of the best, like the best of the best of the best of the best of like all the NATO countries and Israel, and they're all
yeah, like it's funny enough, and then you add "and Israel" onto it, and it transcends. It's great.
I'm just thinking about Israel as if it's like got the coveted "and" or "with" in the movie titles.
But yeah, they're essentially like constituted in the wake of fucking something or other. I can't remember which of these books where it starts, but they're essentially like an extrajudicial US president-only murder machine that stops terrorisms with elitism, and they have like supranational authority they could just like walk into France and say, "Hello, we are Rainbow Six. No, you may not ask any questions. Yes, we are here to take over your hostage scene." And it's really weird. Like, it's really fucked up.
Like, I've just looked it up on Wikipedia, and let me just read you the first paragraph, because I think this is the most Tom Clancy brain shit I've ever come across. CIA operative John Clark forms a secret multinational counter-terrorist unit known as Rainbow. And if you're from Britain, that takes on a very different fucking connotation in your head. Jeez, Bungle, what are we doing tonight? Yeah, exactly. Gets better. Based in Hereford, England, the unit consists of 2 operational squads composed of elite soldiers from NATO countries and is supplemented by intelligence and technological experts from MI6, Mossad, and the FBI. Clark serves as the commanding officer. His son-in-law, Domingo Chavez, leads one of the 2 squads, and the second in command is Special Air Service Officer Alistair Stanley. Da-da! Like, that's the setup for it, and, you know, it then goes into the very cool operations of Rainbow Six. And, yeah, it's so nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
There's one scene in this, like, one of the terrorist scenes that they foil is essentially the terrorists take over Disneyland, like, not Disneyland, but in Spain. And, like, again, in, like, sort of the desire for gruesome torture, I'm fairly sure that one of the terrorists, like, shoots a dying girl in a wheelchair in the head to prove how serious they are. It's incredibly fucked up. Like, it's wildly out of control. Whatever. So they foil the whole thing. The hyper Ebola does not get.
Sorry, can I add?
Is it played really straight, or does the terrorist say "make a wish"?
I mean, it's entirely straight. It's straight, but inherently humorous because it's Clancy writing it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from. Yeah.
But yeah, the line in the Wikipedia article, by the way, just says they are then deployed to a hostage situation in an amusement park in Spain, where a group of French terrorists have taken a group of children hostage and demand that various prisoners, including Carlos the Jackal, be released.
Okay.
Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Who's Carlos the Jackal when he's at home? I'll bite.
Oh, you don't actually know. Carlos the Jackal is a Venezuelan convicted of terrorist crimes who's currently serving a life sentence in France for the 1975 murder of an informant for the French government. He's an actual real-life guy. But yeah, here's the thing: he's a committed Marxist-Leninist, among other things, and he was involved with the Stasi and the KGB, right? So this is a real-life guy, and Tom Clancy's going, yeah, just to make clear that these eco-terrorists are evil, they're going to request Carlos the Jackal be released from prison.
Okay, fuck. I didn't think he would be that fucking out there to just let's just add in a real guy.
Oh no, this is Tom Clancy's shit, though.
Yeah,
they tone it down for the films. But in his books, he's clearly doing a line and then getting straight into it, and he's dead, so sue me, Clancy. So, it's absolutely crazy. It's just absolute bugfuck, nonsense.
It ends, by the way, when all the Cabal's plots are revealed and exposed, and the Hyper Ebola does not get released thanks to last-minute savior actions. And then they find out who's behind it all, which is like a tech billionaire and the head of the private security company. And they've built a second compound in like the middle of the Amazonian rainforest because they're eco-terrorists. Yeah. They want to live there and like study nature and ride out the global mega death, essentially. And then
the ending is so
it ends with like they take the base and they shoot all the eco-terrorists with guns, except for like a couple of people. I think it's like the last couple. Because she was the president's science advisor, but also secretly an eco-terrorist. And he was the head of the bio company. And they literally like forced them to strip naked, then kick them out of the helicopter and say, go be close with nature as the helicopter flies away. And that's supposed to be...
Yeah, they leave the survivors naked in the jungle to reconnect with nature. And the stated reason for this is because, and this is the brilliant part, they don't have enough evidence that would get them convicted.
Oh, yeah, that was it.
Like, that's the part that's really... It's like, all right, we've taken a terrorist base full of evil terrorists and shot them all to death. And these guys on the scene, well, it's just circumstantial, innit? So I guess we'll just strip them naked, kick them out in the jungle as a kind of vigilante justice, because we couldn't get a conviction in an actual court of law. Rainbow Six! Yeah. Not just international, but supranational. Above the law of nations.
I mean, to be fair, this gets worse because after this, but this is also, I think, after Tom Clancy himself dies, they do the whole thing which is called the campus, which is where Jack Ryan, he of earlier Cultural Committee fames, becomes a member of the Campus, which is an even more super secret CIA organization that does even more war crimes.
Welcome to the next level.
Yeah.
Like, that's it all the way through.
Echelon.
Sorry, you're right. And it literally is Echelon, by the way, because on the subject of, like, video games...
Isn't that the group fucking, like, Mr. Goggles works for? From Splinter?
Kind of, yes. Right? Because here's the thing, the Clancyverse is all connected. It's all got it's got the same actors, the same incestuous bullshit, and it even goes through to the Tom Clancy's video game series specifically, right? Well, actually, let me ask you a question. Of all the Tom Clancy Rainbow Six games, how many do you think there are just in total? Rainbow Six Tom Clancy games. Do you want to have a guess?
Half a dozen.
16.
6. I'm just going to say, yeah.
22.
Did you count that, Alistair?
Yeah, I had to get all the shoes and socks off to wear that one out.
No, I mean, did you actually go check it on the wiki? Because it is 22.
Just plucked a fucking number out of the air and I got it right. So
yeah, so
why,
well done.
why ever learn anything?
Yeah, it runs from Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six all the way to the most recent one was Rainbow Six Siege, which was 2015. And then there's one, Rainbow Six Extraction is coming out next year, essentially.
Oh, that's the one with the aliens.
That's the one with the aliens. But yeah, the most recent one, I think, was that not the mobile game where the evil like empire was Black Lives Matter? Was that not a Rainbow Six tie-in?
Oh yeah,
might have been.
I think that not Division or some shit. Like I don't know.
I think it was. Like there's a lot because okay. So Tom Clancy's video game series, right? There's the fucking Amiga and ones that they kind of fucked around with. It didn't really go anywhere by Red Storm Entertainment, but Ubisoft bought Red Storm Entertainment. And they did it to basically buy the rights to do Tom Clancy shit in perpetuity. So actually, Amazon is not going to be able to do a game off the back of this because they have these rights locked down tight. So there's a Rainbow Six series. There's the Ghost Recon series, which includes all your favourites, Jamie.
Also Clone Dances,
yeah. There's Tom Clancy's End War, which got like a sum total of 2 games. There's Tom Clancy's Hawks.
That was the one where you had to shout into the microphone to make things happen and no one liked it.
Yeah, everyone hated it. There's Tom Clancy's Hawks, HAWX, right?
Oh,
there's
fucking hell.
There's Tom Clancy's The Division. There's a couple of standalone game calls Tom Clancy's Elite Squad and Tom Clancy's X Defiant, which is apparently to be announced and not counted. But then the other one, and the big series, and the one that I actually I like, but boy, it's got issues, is Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell, which I think is when... If not Ghost Recon, what am I saying? If Rainbow Six was a breakthrough and then Ghost Recon kind of became a bit of bread and butter over time, Splinter Cell was like the one that was really well regarded for the game side of things.
I don't know why, though. I've played a couple of Splinter Cell games and they are fucking atrocious.
Yeah, they are pretty fucking shit.
I'm going to be honest, it depends on the game. Right,
I mean, I remember the first one.
Just bad.
The first one where it was like one of the first sort of like first-person stealth things.
Yeah,
it was like really big, and it was like in the mid-90s or late in the 90s. I don't remember when it was.
So the first Splinter Cell was released in 2002, and none of them are first person. So
is it third person then?
It's third person, yeah.
Right. Okay. Well,
so these are the Mr. Goggles games, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Goggles.
But the point is, it's a stealth game
that runs a village shop.
It's a stealth game before they established like the sort of language of stealth games. So it's basically just like you bumble around and then a guy sees you and you die in a hail of gunfire and fuck you, start the level again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of like
there's
that.
There's no detection meters or indication of whether you're hidden well or anything like that.
So they started pioneering that in Splinter Cell a bit. Like they took some really good lessons from the old Thief games, if anyone remembers them, and they actually kind of put them in place. And what's really interesting about Splinter Cell in its initial incarnation is it's basically yet another secret cabal kind of thing called Third Echelon, which is put together after the collapse and failure of Second Echelon. And if some Tom Clancy nerd wants to write in and explain what Second Echelon is, then please feel free. Okay. But it's kind of like David's...
through the games move up to like the 4th echelon as well, like in the process of the games moving on.
I think it does actually. I've not played, full disclosure, I've not played the most recent Splinter Cell, but I think there's something about like 4th echelon or something like that in it. But it's like it's very bizarre, and what's really interesting is you get to chart I'm convinced, right? I'm convinced that they almost certainly get like US Defense Department funding.
Oh
same
yeah,
as Call
oh
of Duty,
yeah.
right?
I'm
Absolutely,
with you there.
100%. And you can absolutely trace the influence because in the first Splinter Cell, the game goes out of its way to make it kind of hard and frustrating and painful to kill people. Like, I got to give it credit. The first Splinter Cell game, you can kill people, but it is entirely not how the game's meant to be played, and the game actively discourages you from doing it. And all the stuff it gives you to avoid killing people is easier to use, is better, is more effective, and, you know, so on and so forth. And there's only one person in the entire game that you're really meant to kill, and that's right at the end of the game. You've got to assassinate basically the guy who's done the entire game's thing. But that's like played off as being, right, this has to happen because otherwise this is going to happen again and we've got no other way around it. And like they try and work hard to justify it, right? Okay? However, by the third game, Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, they've now changed it so that you've got a choice between, you know, non-lethal and lethal. But the lethal is quicker and easier and more effective, and you just like tap button, stab guy, grab body, drag kind of thing. And yes, it's more fun to play as a consequence, but all that philosophy of, you know, Splinter Cell's meant to be a team of ghosts, they're not seen. Sam Fisher is meant to be this thing in the shadows and you never see him. That just goes, it's gone, and instead it's placed with, you are an ultra spec, like, you know, you're not just the best of the best, but you're a warrior kind of shit runs through it. And then by the time they get to Splinter Cell Conviction in 2010, which is a good game, they basically go, what if Splinter Cell but Jason Bourne? And they basically do an entire plot arc about you having no gadgets and no tech, and over the game you're basically earning your way back into the secret kind of, you know, echelon. Which includes an absolutely baller sequence, to be fair, where it's Sam Fisher with no gadgets versus his old boss, Third Echelon, where you actually have to fucking plant bombs and explode them to get into your old Third Echelon base to uncover the truth about, like, the dodgy shit they've all been up to and stuff. So there's some good stuff here, but my god, do they work really, really fucking hard to take any of the good parts that kind of were there in the initial conception and just go, nah, Tom Clancy wouldn't approve of this, mate. Got to kill him. Got to get real into that wet work, mate. That's how it's got to go. And everything I've seen, the reason I didn't play the most recent one is it looked like it absolutely went into that you're a top-tier operator who doesn't take no bullshit kind of, like, the Jerry Race War films that we did, it basically seemed like it was that, but with less irony, to be perfectly blunt.
I mean...
So...
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. That is the arc of all Tom Clancy games. They might start with an interesting idea, but by the end of it is basically Call of Duty Tom Clancy.
Well, I mean, what I find sort of interesting is we talk about these movies, and especially the difference between like Patriot Games, the movie, and then the Without Remorse, the movie, is like, I think it sort of shows, you know, Alistair, what you talked about earlier, like there's no more Soviet Union, so essentially everybody's restless and bored, and it sort of shows like how sort of the American right, because that's what it is just like being slowly driven insane and sort of slowly having like their lust for violence gets like more obscene and extreme with every iteration, because that happens in the movies as well, and like the fantasies are more and more like baroque and extreme, because like Patriot Games is essentially about, you know, a couple of IRA guys trying to murder an American family and the Prince of Wales, and it ends with these incredibly like baroque murder fantasies on like this epic scale where thousands and millions of people have to die, and it just like, you know, it mirrors the movement of, I think, certainly the American right from the victory of the post-Cold War into this completely mad fantasy realm where not just like everybody is against them, but everybody's plotting against them in the dark. And, you know, I think essentially this is how you end up with Hillary Clinton's book. Because I think Hillary Clinton's book is pretty much a Tom Clancy fantasy.
Yeah, it is Tom Clancy, absolutely 100%. It's off-brand Tom Clancy. Yes, superb. And that's the thing, like all of this stuff is like, it makes perfect sense that of all the game companies to actually have like Tom Clancy's IP property, the one best suited is actually Ubisoft. Because what is Ubisoft known for, if not
really
repeating the same shit?
Sandboxes.
Yeah.
And loot boxes. And
really
like extractive capitalism.
And
giving
sex crimes in the office.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's true.
And again, like Harrison Ford in the women's bathroom.
Yeah.
Like it kind of, it's like poetry, it rhymes, you know?
Yes.
It's they have this
Thank you, George.
whole
Yeah.
yes.
Poetry doesn't have to rhyme though.
It does not.
It does not. It does not. But in this, it does. Thematically, it does, because all we get from Ubisoft is what sex crimes, exploitative capitalist practices, and painting you a picture of a vast and kind of shitty, samey world where you are god and master. Essentially, it's awful. It's absolutely awful. But you get lots of cool gadgets. So who's to say whether it's good or bad or not? Really?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the reason fucking the whole thing's just got more. It's like gone from because like. Hunt for Red October is just a fucking guy who's like really excited about submarines. Do you know what I mean? It's like the Jack Ryan, and that is just like fucking. Oh, do I get to go on a boat? Mint. You know what I mean? He's like a fucking like a kid on a day trip throughout that film. You know what I mean? And then like whereas like now Jack Ryan's like jumping out of a fucking helicopter and stabbing a guy in the neck and stuff for freedom. And it is entirely because of the collapse of the Soviet Union, because like. You know what I mean? You couldn't really get away with going like, oh, and then like fucking Jack Ryan jumps out of a helicopter and stabs the Russian president in the neck, like, you know what I mean, and like fucking jizzes on his corpse or whatever during the Cold War, because they just
no, Jamie,
national incident.
Teabags him, Jamie. Teabags him.
Yeah, but like now that the Russians are no longer like, you know, it's like post-Soviet Russia. There's no one around to tell the Americans to wind their fucking necks in. So it's just like. Oh well, now you know what I mean. If we don't like fucking kill like 100,000 foreigners a day, like, you know what I mean, someone might knock over a building in New York again, and we couldn't have that.
Well, and also they have to like simulate the size and the threat of the USSR. So like it can't be like a couple of Irish guys. It has to be like Iraq.
It has to be a coalition of all the fucking like Middle Eastern terrorists who have ever lived.
Iraq and Iran
to blow
have
up half
to
of London. Yeah.
They have to like merge into one country, because otherwise it doesn't. You know, you can't.
Yeah, Iraq.
Iraq.
That's where the spice comes from, isn't it?
Probably. I still haven't watched Dunk. But yeah.
Iraqan definitely sounds like something that would appear in the movie Dunk.
But yeah, it's just like 9/11. I mean, obviously, no surprise to anyone, but like 9/11 obviously like just broke everyone's brain, didn't it? But no one more so than like fucking like writers, I think.
Yeah,
because it's like, you know, if you spent your entire career, like, what was Tom Clancy like before and after 9/11? I imagine there's quite like a harsh fucking like a visible Terminator between those two fucking periods.
Not,
you know what I mean?
Not really, actually. Like, actually, I'll give Tom Clancy credit. He was kind of consistent, right? Because like a Rainbow Six, that was 1998, and it's got fucking eco-fascist terrorists attempting to genocide the entire Earth by using the Global Olympics sort of thing. So, you know, like he was who he was, and he was where he was pretty fucking early on. I think there is a difference between him at like the, you know, 1980s Tom Clancy and then late 1990s. I think somewhere in there.
But I think the difference there is that by the mid to late 90s he was a gamer. You know what I mean? It's like, it's fine to go like, oh well, yeah, you know, he was talking about like genociding everyone on the planet with like a bioweapon in 1996, but let's not forget that was for the plot of a game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like the plot of games.
I think actually that was the plot of the film The Rock.
I mean, interestingly,
the plot of like games has always been like decades ahead of films in terms of like just, you know what I mean, relentless dead-eyed spectacle in like fucking.
Do you know why I genuinely think that is? I think it's because games when they got started had less of a critical corpus. So if you tried to pull that shit when, say, you know, major film critics were still kicking around, they'd go, "This is horseshit," and it wouldn't land. But in the games industry, because that was seen as juvenile, it didn't have a critical corpus to point out how this was bullshit, and so they got to basically jump ahead there. I think that's a huge component of it.
No, I think it's just because games were cheaper originally. Like, if you wanted to make a film about like how everyone in the world like suddenly like all the teeth fell out and their like dick turned blue because of a fucking virus deployed by the Syrians or some shit, you know what I mean? That would be expensive to make into a film, and no one would give you the money because they'd be like, "I'm sorry, what the fuck?" But if you wanted to make like, if like 1989, you wanted to make that into a game, you would literally just need two nerds and a bedroom and you could like fucking, you know what I mean? You could reduce that to like the standards of the day. And like, yeah, nowadays it's like, you know, games have like fucking budgets of like hundreds of millions and everything, but they're still building on like, you know, we hit the ground, like the industry hit the ground running in terms of like fucking just stupid shit, because they never got to the point where you told the fucking like the idiot who knows nothing about the world and thinks that like, oh well, yeah, actually this is how the world works. No one ever sat down and explained to him that like, no, it isn't, and we're not going to publish that. You know what I mean? Because like it's what people expect from games, so you can just do that.
I think you're right, but I guess in Tom Clancy, games found their perfect partner in a sense, because Tom Clancy basically was
an atrocious nerd. Do you know what I mean?
He was the creator. He was the heart
was
of
he
like
a weeb?
No,
because I get distinct weeb vibes off him.
No,
you know what I mean?
he was a weeb for American military.
I bet he built a few Gundams in his time. Do you know what I mean? But he kept them hidden. Like people would come around his house and he'd have a cupboard.
I don't know.
Have a secret room full of like his Gundams, and he wouldn't show anyone because that was embarrassing. But if he wants to talk about,
he was notoriously like
far more into Battleship Yamato.
Like, here's the thing, he was notoriously about realism to the point that he nearly fucked up a couple of films because he kept saying that wouldn't actually work in real life, though. Like, in Hunt for Red October, I can't remember what it was, but something with a laser, and he's like, no, you can't do that.
It was like the fuel for the helicopter or some shit.
Yeah,
the bit with
something like that. And
the bit with the laser, is that not the thing I mentioned when we talked about Jack Ryan? Where
maybe.
It's on the director's comment. Well, it's not the director's commentary. It was on the commentary track for Some of All Fears, and like fucking Tom Clancy himself is like, because there's a bit where the guy looks through the binoculars and you can hear what people are saying, and Tom Clancy was furious that like you can't actually hear people through binoculars. He doesn't care how like high tech the fucking binoculars are. They can't pick up sound. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you need a special fucking like radar gun that shoots a laser at a window or something. You can't hear people outdoors with binoculars.
So that's the thing. He wouldn't like Gundam or all the rest of it because it's unrealistic. That is basically the thing of it.
That's why he kept it in a secret room and didn't show anyone. You know what I mean? Like, it's a shame.
Maybe,
but,
I don't know.
But like,
I guess in some,
like, let's be honest, the evolution of like American military hardware is like a giant robot that like runs around and like fucking punches things. So.
Well, I mean, we are definitely getting... Tom Clancy would have been so hard for those dogs, which have got guns on them, basically.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, his corpse is probably wanking so hard his grave looks like a car wash by now.
Oh.
Well, at root, Tom Clancy is basically the perfect partner for the games industry, and to a lesser extent modern Hollywood, because he was like the progenitor of what I think you could probably describe as the military entertainment complex.
Yeah.
Because it's that intersection between making the games as propaganda to get soldiers to push into the military, to do dumb shit, and then that dumb shit pays the checks of the military hardware procurers, who then put out these really great promotional videos on all their cool hardware, which gets the next generation of Tom Clancy's really hard in a way writing and producing video games, etc., 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 and so it goes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's probably as good a place as any to fucking end this, don't you?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
We will catch you on the free one next week.
Yeah, that's whenever we're back from our actual holidays and not had our brains fucking melted by producing all the previous content. Just FYI.
That's true.
Yeah, we literally recorded this halfway through December, in case you couldn't tell. So, if we're all dead from like mega COVID, apart from Alistair, who's somehow immune, then hello from beyond the grave.
And blame the
I'm feeling exceedingly worn out right now.
It was a breezy Tuesday night. If anyone's that bothered,
it was the and if we're all dead, it was the Islamic eco-terrorist who did it, because that's who always does it. In cahoots with the Russians.
The rainbow variant of the coronavirus.
It was a rank.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Happy New Year.